Please welcome the Honorable Lourdes A. Leon Guerrero, Governor of Guam, Magahagan Guahan, Melanie Mendiola, Administrator of the Guam Economic Development Authority, and Dr. Ricky Hernandez, Deputy Administrator of the Guam Economic Development Authority. And now to Governor Leon Guerrero for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Janella. Half a day and good afternoon. My administration has been working to help ease the economic injury felt by both employees and their employers. Through the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and Grant Program and the Paycheck Protection Program, over 1,700 local businesses have been assisted using nearly $200 million in funding. Even before this pandemic reached our shores, this administration released our own local program, the Team Guam Plan, which consisted of multiple initiatives to assist our small businesses with their potential cash flow needs. And our efforts continue to put money into the hands of our people. This helps businesses, individuals in sustaining their livelihood and quality of life. Using CARES Act funds, I directed my fiscal discipline team to use $40 million to create local economic relief programs, $20 million for individual disaster cash relief assistance, and $20 million for small businesses. The Guam Economic Development Authority was tasked to provide grants to small businesses affected by COVID-19. Through the hard work and dedication of Administrator Melanie Mendiola and Deputy Administrator Dr. Ricky Hernandez, their team at GIDA, and with input from the business community, we are unveiling the Small Business Pandemic Assistance Grant. This grant program will assist qualified small businesses that make $1.5 million or less in annual gross receipts. The program used a tiered award calculation to consider the size of the business. The grant has a cap of $30,000. Small businesses that have received assistance through the PPP or the EIDL program will still be eligible to apply. But we are prioritizing the first $10 million for small businesses that have not received these federal subsidy funds. Once this is exhausted, all small businesses will be awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. These grant programs will then be processed by the Department of Administration. To apply for the Small Business Pandemic Assistance Grant, you can go online to investguam.com/smallbusiness. I want to thank everyone for their continued patience through these difficult times. While restrictions have been relaxed, please know that the choices we make, what we continue to ask the public to do and not do, are done to prevent the very real risk of a second wave. Continue to practice social distancing, wear your face mask, and respect each other so that we can recover from this pandemic together. Thank you.
And that video can be seen on the GITA website at investguam.com. And now I'd like to invite Melanie Mendiola, Administrator of GITA, to make a few remarks.
Hafa and thank you, Governor. On behalf of the Board of Directors at the Guam Economic Development Authority and the team, we are happy to begin accepting applications for the Guam Small Business Pandemic Assistance Grant on our website, www.investguam.com. The grant was created after our team conducted research on what other jurisdictions are doing, as well as consulting industry stakeholders that the governor mentioned earlier, including the Guam Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Chamber, the Korean Chamber, the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, and the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association. The intention of the grant was to first give an opportunity to our smallest of small businesses, reflected by gross receipts of under $500,000 annually, pre-interruption, and not yet in receipt of funds under PPP or EIDL. The second round will open up to businesses with gross receipts of under $1.5 million annually and will include those who receive EIDL or PPP. All applicants, regardless of first round or second round eligibility, can apply now and are evaluated on a first-come, first-served basis. Businesses can use the funds to cover business interruption, pay rent, utilities, payroll, loans, etc. Grants max out at $30,000 and will be calculated based on a percentage of average monthly gross receipts. The GITA team will evaluate your application for approval, and a log of approvals will be sent to the Department of Administration for check processing. And we'd like to thank the Department of Administration in advance for their tireless work in issuing checks, not only for this program, but in addition to others for COVID relief. Again, our website is www.investguam.com, which will house the application, which can be downloaded, filled out, and sent back to a dedicated email address, smallbusiness@investguam.com. We also have a dedicated phone number to this initiative, 647-4338, for inquiries on the program. But we highly recommend that you visit our website first for information, including the infomercial you just saw. According to the U.S. SBA Office of Advocacy, there are around 3,466 small businesses on our island. We hope that through this grant, through various federal assistance measures such as the EIDL and PPP, as well as our local lending efforts at the Guam Economic Development Authority, we hope we can help small businesses weather this storm. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. And now we'll open up the floor to some questions from the media. We'll begin with PNC, Kevin Kerrigan.
I wanted to begin with that. Guam Federation of Teachers has changed its position and decided to support Vice Speaker Nelson's bill instead of the bill that you and the speaker announced yesterday. Could we get your reaction, please?
It was a total surprise, Kevin. As you know, we held a press conference yesterday, and we had the support of GFT and, of course, the speaker's legislation that we presented to the people of Guam. And my understanding is that they all worked very, very closely and very hard over the weekend to come up with a plan and legislation that would best meet the needs of our essential employees. And it was a total surprise for me, as you heard Robert Cos give his support and his praise about this piece of legislation. So I don't know what happened between 2:30 yesterday to now, 2:00 p.m. Something must have happened. So I can't talk about that because I don't know. But again, my reaction is it's a total surprise of the quick change in support.
As a follow-up, my second question has to do with the related development. Attorney Tom Fisher today has filed a lawsuit seeking to force payment of double pay. He cites Department of Administration personnel rules, which state that when a public emergency has been declared, which did occur in this case, that those employees required to remain on duty to provide essential services shall be paid at double the regular rate. He claims that no law is necessary and he wants double pay to be paid, and he cites that law. Your reaction to that?
You know, every person has the right to be represented in court, and every person has a right to move forward with whatever they think is most applicable and most correct for them. And so that's what lawsuits are about, and it'll be discussed in court. I'm confident that our position is correct. I'm confident because as you read the Attorney General's opinion, I tend to agree with this opinion. But again, that's what courts are, to come out and argue disputes and argue arguments, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Kevin. Next is KOAM, Nestor Lecanto.
Assistance grant program. As you're probably aware, the federal program, a similar federal program, was subject to some quote unquote abuses, and some bigger, deeper pocket companies were inclined to return the money. Are there safeguards in place for this local program?
Thank you for that question, Nestor. In fact, we do have a very active compliance department over at the Guam Economic Development Authority. And our compliance department, the first thing we want to ensure is that applications are evaluated in an impartial manner. And so it is on a first come, first serve into our dedicated email address, smallbusiness@investguam.com. From there, it is largely formulaic, and it is based off of gross receipts taxes previously filed. And then from there, we then calculate the award and then give the applicant an answer. And then as far as post-award audit, we are asking them to sign some documentation regarding what they're utilizing the funding for. There are some ineligible uses of funds, some items, just to interestingly, just to mention, you cannot use you can't use this pot of funding to cover the same things you applied for under the EIDL or PPP if received. So there's no real double counting of federal monies. And in addition, we're asking all grant recipients to maintain receipts such that during a post-award audit, they can show us what they utilize the money for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The second question is, how did you arrive at that $500,000 hard cap for the first round? And is there any wiggle room for companies who might be just slightly above it but are in need of the money?
Yes, thank you again for that question. I'm happy to report that we actually engaged stakeholders, including the Guam Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Chamber, the Chinese Chamber, the Korean Chamber, and GHRA, in coming up with the 2 rounds of funding. The first round of funding, we wanted to, one of the things what I cited earlier about the number of businesses per the Small Business Office of Advocacy, employers who employ under 100 people, 100 persons or less, represent the largest section of our private sector. And so we knew that we wanted to benefit small businesses. Now, this first round, we wanted to benefit the smallest of small businesses, primarily because we knew that these were the businesses that didn't necessarily have a full-time CFO to help them file their documentation on time. So perhaps they were not able to be recipients of under PPP or EIDL. And so that, along with the feedback of stakeholders, in addition to what other jurisdictions were doing, that is how we arrived at the Section 1, which was 500,000 and below, and Section 2, which is 1.5 and below. Of note, the USDA definition of a small business is a rural business with 1 million in receipts or below, and the SBA definition, I believe, is right around the 2 million and below mark. So we wanted to do something consistent with that with the input of our stakeholders. Thank you.
So that's a hard cap, no wiggle room?
Unfortunately, if it's 500,001, you're going to have to wait until round 2.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nestor. Mariana's Business Journal, Wayne Chargaloff.
Have a day, everyone. My first question is for Ms. Mendiola and Dr. Hernandez. How long will businesses have to wait after applying? How long will it take for them to actually receive the benefits for this program?
So the evaluation will be done in-house at the Guam Economic Development Authority, and we are projecting out less than 1 week to receive a decision on whether or not you've received the grant funding and in your eligible group. So if you're part of group 2, which is the 1.5 million or below, you actually must wait. You can, if you're part of group 2, you can submit your application at any time, but you're not going to receive an answer until after we've finished, after we've completed the evaluations of round 1 or 3 weeks, whichever comes first. But for the most part, we have a turnaround time of about 1 week, and you'll receive correspondence from the Guam Economic Development Authority. We'll be providing a regular schedule to the Department of Administration, which will turn around the check in their prescribed check turnaround time, which I can't comment on. I'm not sure what it is.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry. The video is kind of freezing on my device here, but I got about 1 week for turnaround.
Yes, that's correct. So initially, when you turn in your application, we have, I believe in our SOPs, we have 2 business days to respond to you with a tracking number so that you might be able to keep track of your application. And then from there, we hope to give you a decision within about 3 to 5 days.
Okay, got it. And this next question is for the governor. At Rev Tax, there have been really long lines and has been becoming an issue with traffic and everything. Are you looking at perhaps changing the operations somehow, where they're adding more personnel or something like that to resolve that issue? And as far as Gov Guam in general, what's the timeline looking like for hiring more people or opening up fully at this time?
So, so I think that question I would leave up to the director, which is Daphne, in terms of hiring more personnel. I know she's a very responsible director, and I know that part of the reason the lines are long and out the door is because she's complying and adhering very closely to social distancing. And I had visited the Department of Revenue and Tax before they opened, and she had it all marked out 6 feet apart. She had the line going, flowing, to make sure that there's less social contact as possible. And of course, there's the requirement of the mask. And I know she's also taking their temperatures when they go in. At least that's what some of the people that have gone through. I'm aware, Wayne, that I guess the length of time in waiting varies because there are some people that wrote an email thanking me for their quick, efficient, and very caring service. At least those comments were given to me. I haven't heard anything about really how long or any of that, but they did say it was very efficient. As far as hiring more personnel, she would have to make that assessment based on the need. And that's totally up to her.
Thank you, Wayne. K57, Jolene Tobis.
Half a day, Governor. My question is in regards to the Heroes Bill, and I spoke with GFT Robert Koss this afternoon, who indicated that when he was approached on the compromise bill, he was not, or the union was not informed that there was uh, other proposed legislation out there, such as Senator Talina Nelson's bill, and that the union was told that there wasn't any adequate resources, and therefore they jumped on the heroes bill. Now, can you share why it was not disclosed to him that there was other legislation which addresses the compensation issue for frontline workers? um, can you address why that was not disclosed, or why it was this specific legislation that was pushed for by the administration?
I don't really know why it was not disclosed, but I do know that even at the time of the press conference yesterday, that the speaker herself really wasn't aware of the bill, as she did say that she's not familiar with the logistics of the bill. But I do also know that at the press conference, Robert Koss was aware of the two bills at that time. And he did say that it would have to be worked out between the legislators and the senators as to what is going to be resolved. But he was confident it will be resolved. And at that time, he did not pull his support from Bill 359.
All right. I have do I have a second question? Okay, my follow-up question is the heroes bill, the funding comes from the CARES Act. um why, if you are able to utilize the CARES Act funding to pay for annual leave, why can't that funding be utilized to just pay out double pay, or pay out the compensation they're asking for?
Well, because the double pay is not applicable to this pandemic crisis, as so stated by the Attorney General. And as a result of that, if the double pay is not applicable to this pandemic crisis, then the resources would not also be applicable. And this piece of legislation is eligible for the definition of hazardous pay. And I'm not so sure if the double pay itself, without its current ability to be applicable to this pandemic crisis, would fall under that eligibility.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Jolene. Next is PDN, Steve Limtiaco.
Yes, hello. I had a question for Gita about the assistance grants for the small businesses. Will Gita disclose who applies for these grants and in which order?
I think we'll consult in answering that question. I believe that we will to be able to disclose as much as we can disclose without and with respecting the confidentiality of individual businesses' financial information.
And I have a follow-up question for the governor. It's about the medical response to the pandemic. Governor, as far as you know, are there any patients currently at GMH, and how long do you intend to keep the current medical response system in place?
So right now, according to our reports in this meeting this morning, there is no there are no COVID cases. There are, I think, 2 or 3 that are persons under investigation. And so we're waiting for their test results. So the medical response is going to be put in place as long as we have the public health emergency, and also Steve, as long as we are in PCOR 2 and PCOR 3. And it's important to keep it in place because this virus can rapidly be transmitted, and this virus can surge, and this virus can rapidly cause a very serious illness. So absolutely the medical response still is important and significant in providing the care that we need for the containment of the virus.
Thank you, Steve. I-94, Adriana Cotero.
Hi, everyone. So my first question, Governor, during Attorney Tom Fisher's press conference this afternoon on the petition he filed on behalf of a GPD officer that's suing yourself, the government of Guam, Guam Police Department Chief Steve Ignacio, and Department of Administration Director Ed Byrne, he said that in regards to the bills on the table, that we still don't have a plain remedy, we don't have a speedy remedy, we don't have a clean and clear remedy other than to go to court. And as he brings the case forward in court, he said, and I quote, I was pondering on whether or not the government of Guam will even oppose this. Why would the government of Guam take a position adverse to their own employees? So I present that question to you. Does the government of Guam plan to take a position adverse to their own employees who are working on the front lines?
Well, so now that I know I'm being sued, I reserve the right of not saying anything because I don't want it to be used against me. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer your question.
Okay. And so for my second question then, I believe Jolene kind of touched on it, but I was kind of having trouble talking to her or hearing it through with the connection. But there was a bill introduced by Vice Speaker Talina Nelson prior to Speaker Tina Munya Barnes's legislation, the HEROES Act, and I question why Senator Nelson's bill, which also aims to bring remedy to the double pay matter at hand, was never entertained by your administration. You had even vetoed Nelson's Bill 326, which would have paid the double pay, and you had said that prior that you couldn't afford it. And then even during today's press conference with Attorney Tom Fisher, suing over the double pay, he called the HEROES Act a swindle. And that's an act that you supported and attached to the Joint Information Center press releases yesterday. And while there was an entire press conference on your collaboration with Speaker Barnes, you neglected to mention Nelson's bill. Have you reviewed Senator Nelson's bill? And if so, can you share where you stand on the measure? And what would you say to critics who say that your support of the Speaker's measure is an example of favoritism amongst the Guam legislature?
First of all, I was not aware of Senator Talina Nelson's bill. I was not aware till yesterday, and I have not reviewed it. So like I said, I don't have a position on her bill. And I support bills not because of favoritism or because of I like one senator over the other. I actually like all 15 of them. But I support them based on the substance of the bill. I support it based on the policy that is moving forward. I support it because it's going to improve the welfare and livelihood of our people. I support it because it's for the interest of the public. Those are some of the reasons why I support pieces of legislation. So it has nothing to do with favoritism.
Thank you, Adriana. The Point, Nick Delgado.
Day. So congratulations to Gita and to the administration for rolling out this financial assistance aid for small businesses. It looks pretty straightforward in terms of the application process and everything they need to do moving forward. But I had a question in regards to if I can get an update on unemployment benefits. Is it still the vendor software, Governor, that's the holdup in that application process? Have you gotten any updates?
You know, Nick, I haven't gotten any updates, but I know that that is what we're looking at is how we, where we're at on the vendor process. And in fact, Dave De La Sola just walked in, so you can have much more accurate information and we'll have him give that to you. And so his update to you is going to be given by him.
Thank you, Governor.
Could you repeat your question again? I'm sorry, I just walked in the door.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. De La Sola. So it was in regards to the unemployment benefits. I recall last time you had spoken to our reporters, you said that it's the vendor software It's pretty much been the holdup in the application process. And so we wanted to get an update. Where are we in that, and have we fixed the bug, so to speak?
Well, as we speak, we are checking off boxes and crossing the T's, and we're getting very close to the software as far as the application part being completed. Some of the hiccups was that USDOL put in some extra requirements that we need to try to install in the software, and that was like the SAVE software I've been going out and telling everybody, systematic alien verification for entitlements. And that basically is a system that you put into the software, and it detects any alien workers, and it tells them automatically if they're allowed to be accepting federal assistance. So any illegal aliens, any aliens that may be on the incorrect visas, like a tourist visa or student visa, that may be working illegally and trying to collect assistance, that would flag it out for us automatically. So what we're doing now is basically moving very quickly and trying to see what we can do in the next week, week and a half. And I think that we can have something very soon that will at least start the application process and start getting those people's claims in as quickly as possible. And the other side is there's still some procurements and things that need to be solved to get to the final payments, but that will maybe crossed when we get to it after the application process is up and running. It can be added in as we're doing the applications.
Okay. So it sounds like hopefully we get that going by at least June.
I am working as diligently. It's not an easy process going line by line, making sure everything vets correctly because of the amount of money we're going to be giving out and the amount of people. That the whole key to this whole system is the online application. It has to be vetted and get going as well as possible so that we don't run into any problems when it goes online. You can just imagine if something was to go wrong and it doesn't work right and it's going online. So I have that delicate balancing act of trying to get it to a good a condition as possible to release it and to ensure program integrity and make sure that the claimants have a fairly smooth process.
And looking forward to that. Thank you so much for the continued work, and hopefully we get that going soon.
I appreciate your patience.
Okay, and the second question I have is for the governor. Governor, without any intention of trying to harm what is already now become a legal matter in terms of the double pay lawsuit, I did want to ask, have you received any estimate of what the cost would be if the government had to pay out the double pay to the essential workers working during the pandemic? And would the administration be prepared to do so depending on whatever the outcome is, if it's by legislation or by the courts?
Sure. I have not received any hard numbers or any estimates of what it would cost for the double pay. I did receive estimates of what it would cost for the payments to be made or the compensation to be made through the annual leave program with Bill 359, but not for a direct double payout.
So I just want to then clarify that you said that we can't afford double pay, correct?
When we had overwritten Talina Nelson's, Senator Talina Nelson's bill, the estimate that was given there was 36 million. However, that estimate included all the differential pay that was going to be paid. It included base salary and it included double pay. So that's not an estimate that I wanted to that is appropriate for this bill that Senator Talina Nelson is moving forward.
Okay, so it seems like the only way that we'll be able to move forward with paying any double pay would be with the CARES Act funding as discussed.
Well, that's something that we need to look at and see if it does apply. If it doesn't apply, Nick, then they would have to find the means through general fund. And if that's the case, definitely the general fund will not be able to afford it, which may tie our hands and may force us to look at furloughs, which is something that I don't ever want to do. But if it is if CARES Act cannot be applied and it has to be from the general fund, then there's a big problem and a big concern. And I hope that during the deliberations of this bill that they come up with a fiscal note and come up with actually, does the CARES Act apply or not? And be very succinct and be very clear as where the funds will be coming from.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Governor. Hopefully that we're able to use the CARES Act as we're pretty much confident on this bill moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Next is Guam Daily Post, John O'Connor.
Thank you all. Governor, I know we've been talking a lot about the 20 million assistance for small businesses, but would you also consider reducing or supporting a reduction in the GRT for 2
Sorry,
years
Nick,
to help small-
your volume is a little low. I'm sorry. Sorry, John, your volume is a little low. Can you turn it up a little bit?
How am I coming out?
A little bit better.
Okay. So as I was saying, Governor, we have been talking a lot about the small business support from the COVID-19 funds, but will you also support reducing the GRT for 2 years to help small businesses? Is that something you can consider?
I have always said that our GRT of 5% is very reasonable. Also, you must remember that small businesses have a lot of benefits from other pieces of legislation, like the Dave Santos Act, which helps them a lot in terms of their ability to pay GRT. So to just say that to decrease the GRT to help the small businesses, I don't think is very fair, because we are already helping the small businesses. And I have to also look at, John, the future. And future means of getting our general fund, of course, is through GRT taxes. And before COVID, the GRT taxes at 5% was just working very well for our ability to provide the services to our people. And so in the future, I need to make sure that our sources of funding can be sustained and can be maintained going forward. So small businesses have help already right now. And that is, again, the Dave Santos Act, which I know there's some pieces of legislation moving forward that would increase that threshold, which is good, because it would include higher levels of income and profitability for other greater than just the regular small businesses. So I guess my answer to your question is no, I would probably not support it, but I would also work hard to provide and continue help for the small businesses in our community.
Thank you, Governor. I do want to go back to the double pay issue again. We do know that some autonomous agencies like GPA and GWA are paying out or have paid out double pay. There was some concern about that, especially in light of some people perhaps having difficulty paying their bills. So I wanted to know if you had any comment or concerns about the sums of money coming out to these autonomous agencies employees. I think 1 million for each agency for GPA and GWA.
So as far as them paying double pay, John, that's their decision. That's within their purview. I don't really oversee GPA or GWA. They are an autonomous agency. So I don't know what is their thought processes and what their decisions were moving forward in terms of the double pay. I do know that the law, if you look at it, really, if you're going to look at the law and go with what the Attorney General has said, probably this double pay law is applicable to GPA and GWA. But again, that's up to the attorneys and the board to decide.
Let me do a quick follow-up on that because the Attorney General did advise to do an agency by agency analysis. What is your administration's response to that advice?
An agency by agency analysis for double
Right.
pay for the agencies?
Yes, to determine whether the agencies fit the qualifications for double pay, having facilities
Right.
closed.
So, yes. So my understanding about the, and my reading of the Attorney General's opinion is that double pay is applicable to essential employees who have been asked to come in and work during the period that their facility is closed. And I think the operational word here is facilities closed. So agency by agency, if we were going to make an assessment, is that public health, GMH, fire department, and the police department do not fall under that law because their agencies are open and they are accessible to the public, and the people are essential and they're asked to come to work. So the law says if you are essential but your facilities are closed, then you can have the double pay. So for example, DRT, if we looked at DRT was closed, but we had employees that come in because we needed to work on the employment recovery tax rebate. So if this public law, this double pay law was to be applied, I would have to pay DRT, but I cannot pay the nurses, I cannot pay the firemen, I cannot pay the Guam Police Department. So the Attorney General also alluded to this has to be fixed legislative wise. So that's where I stand in terms of if in terms of the applicability of this double pay. You see, the double pay is a law that pays during natural disaster. But I think that double pay was done in the framework of typhoon disasters. And so typhoon disasters facilities are closed, but people come in, and even, public health could be closed, but the nurses are asked to come in. And so in those situations, they do get paid double pay. But because this is a different kind of disaster, it's of course a disaster we all know that we have never thought would last this long, and also is a disaster where public places are still open and essential people come in. Therefore, those people are not eligible for the double pay.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Wayne, can we just ask you if you could turn on, thank you. Pacific Island Times, Johanna Salinas.
That there are Hello? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so my question is that there is new CDC models and projections indicating that annual infections are 5 times higher than what is reported. So according to their virus trackers, Guam is actually has maybe about 1,300 COVID cases, including those who are asymptomatic. So there are also persistent warnings about a second wave of contagion. So do you think you are better prepared now to handle a second wave?
I think we are better prepared to handle a second wave because the first wave we didn't know what was going to happen. Now we've experienced the first wave. We have history of the first wave. We have actual data of the first wave, and we've developed and establishes our protocol and processes as a result of this evolving crisis. And so, yes, we will be better prepared for a second wave. But Joanna, I just want you to know that everything that we're doing now is to prevent a second wave. And I don't have any. I don't believe that we will get a second wave only because we have community support in what we're doing. We have been successful to date in containing it at a very low rate. And our history has been back to March 14th or 15th, and we really, the highest amount of infection that we had was, I think, 25. And we have managed to decrease that. There's been a great decline in the infection, and I believe it's because of the measures that we have instituted very early, very rapidly, very aggressively, and also, most importantly, because we have the cooperation of our community. And you can see that when you go out. Our community now wears masks. They are very sensitive to social distancing. Even with me, when I come close to anybody, they tell me, hey, 6 feet, and so all of that, hand washing, sanitizing, people have sanitizers in their purses, in their pockets. That's a regular piece of object, again, that everybody carries around all the time. So I don't think we will have a second wave, but if we do have a second wave, we will be able to see it early, and we'll be able to prevent it quickly.
Okay, so if we were to have a second wave, what do you think you or the government would do differently?
I probably would not really do much differently from what we're doing, but I think I would probably be able to use the processes more now. And my microphone just died. Hello? Yeah.
Hello? Okay.
So I was starting to say I would probably not do much differently because we've already experienced what we have gone through, and like I said, we've already established some really good processes. If anything, we would probably communicate a lot more closely with our federal partners, although we have been communicating. I probably would ask for more CDC personnel to come over here through the United States, help and assistance. But other than that, I think what we've learned is established in our processes and protocols.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. Gov, do you have any other remarks?
I just wanted to say thank you again for Melanie and also Ricky, and of course Dave here for working very diligently and very hard to provide the means for our people to have the help that they need financially, not just individual assistance, but also through our businesses. And to be able to articulate these grants and to be able to create a very complicated program and process in a short period of time, and also to be able to use the monies adequately and appropriately for the benefit of our people. I just wanted to thank them very much for that. And I also would like to continue on asking our community to please wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance. We are going to be lifting more restrictions, relaxing some of our measures. And as we move forward, we need to be even more diligent and much more attentive to making sure that we follow the preventive measures that we have put. We are not out of this. We continue to be to monitor, and we continue to do contact tracing. We continue to work with the various agencies to make sure that we continue with our success in containing this virus. Thank you again for your patience, and thank you for your support.